Welcome everybody back to Friar Talk. Today we got another signing. We got Suk Go out of the Korean League. He is potentially going to be the Padres closer. Kind of been rumored like that. Now the same thing was said with Matsui. Same thing was said with Suarez. So our idea is kind of like we're thinking it's more like closer by committee. Kind of depends on matchup. They'll rotate stuff like that. And if one guy emerges as the clear closer, then he'll take over that role. But all of a sudden, Padres basically, I would say now have their bullpen filled out. And it seems like Suk Go, Matsui, and Suarez are basically your back end three. They also, brought in De Los Santos. Their bullpen kind of is completely swapped around from last year, but overall, you still have Tom Cosgrove, and that's as a start, like your first five guys out of the pen. That's a pretty good five. So I think that the Padres are, if they've done something good this offseason, is that they've shored up the bullpen, which I actually really like just because of the style of play that you have at Petco. It's important to have a good bullpen. So I think they did a good job with the bullpen. Obviously, some other holes on this team, but Chase, you want to get into Musuk Go's kind of his pitch mix stuff like that, and I'll pop up a video of him just kind of throwing right now.
Yeah, basically he has a four-seam fastball and it looks like a slider, curveball, and cutter. His cutter usually sits about 90 to 92, 93, topping out at 93. His fastball will jump up to 97, usually sits 94, 95. It looks like, I can't tell if he just adds a little more spin on his cutter to make it a slider or it's just a different pitch altogether. It's very similar, but he has a nice curveball. I mean, look the way that thing just falls off the table, and then he just got that little slider. Just a really good pitch Mitch. He's got the velo, he's got the control for it. It looks like he's just gonna be dominating. Um, like Matt said, we don't know yet. I've seen multiple reports where he's expected to be the closer, or he's just another high-end reliever. You have three guys that are competing to be a closer: Suarez, Suk Go, and Matsui. I mean, and two of them are righties. One is a lefty, which means you can alternate. You can platoon them. By matchup. Okay, this guy hits curveballs and sliders a little less. This guy's struggles against the changeup. We're gonna go Suarez here. It's just, I mean, just look at that cutter. That cutter's filthy. So, uh, the Padres did shore up their bullpen, and they still have a lot of guys. You still have Mortejon, who's a little bit unknown. You have Cosgrove, who's done great. You have who else is still there? You have Daniel De Los Santos. I mean, they shored up the bullpen. I mean, it's going to be a lot better than it was last year. If you can get your starters to go 6 innings, you don't really have to worry about anything else. Hell, if they even go 5 innings, you don't really have to go worry about it because you got 5 solids right there with more, coming in along the way, and a few guys coming up in the minor leagues that might be able to do something. Now the main concern with the Padres is, are they going to be able to score enough runs for this bullpen to actually do their job where, hey, they get a 1-run lead and they shut down for 4 innings? Or is it going to be, hey, they shut down 4 innings and still lose the game because, they were down by 1? Because that was the story of last year. Our starters had the best ERA in the entire MLB, and we lost a ton of games because the offense was MIA. So, yeah, we shored up the pitching. I still think we could use a couple more starters or just at least one lefty starter. Please sign Shota Imanaga, but this is a great signing. He's cheap. I don't think we mentioned his contract details yet, but 2 years, $4.5 million. This could be a steal for $4.5 million. I mean, an absolute steal.
Yeah, it's a great signing. The Padres are showing up their bullpen the way they did. When was it? 2022, right? They went the Japanese international route where they signed Robert Suarez and Nick Martinez for dirt cheap. And what I didn't like about what they did the next year is they signed them to pretty expensive extensions. And Nick Martinez wasn't that great. Suarez was out for a long time. It kind of ended up backfiring, right? Well, they went the route that worked for them the year before. They went out and signed Suk Go, and they went out and signed Yuki Matsui, a lefty and a righty, who I think it's going to be a great combo. I don't think they're going to have a set closer throughout the year. I mean, sure, there was a set closer last year, but we won 82, 83 games. He pitched in 50 of them. So Someone else had to get 30 other, maybe not saves, but get in 30 of those situations. So maybe 25 more or less, just because there were some blowouts here and there. But you look at his pitch mix, he throws the fastball about 60% of the time. He used to throw a changeup in 2022. He scrapped it in 2023. Slider 4% of the time, cutter 25% of the time, curveball 15% of the time. So a very impressive stat is that he gets a ground ball 65% of the time. So when it comes to, runner on first, need someone to come out of the pen, he'd be great to get you a double play ball. And that's someone that I'd like to rely on out of the bullpen. Granted, a lot of closers nowadays, they're throwing 100. They have nasty cutters. He does have a nasty cutter, but they're throwing 100. He doesn't throw 100. That's not something that I'm going to knock on him, but I think he's going to be great out of the bullpen. He doesn't have to be a closer. And it seems like we signed him to be a closer. It's only $2.25 million. So I think it's a really good deal for the Padres. Mutual option 2026. So he could come back to the Padres if he wanted to. And if the Padres want him back, probably more money. But I mean, shoot, you're having him for 2 years at this price. If he's what is advertised, I mean, you're going to get a really good guy out of the pen. He pitches around 50 innings in the KBO usually. I'm pretty sure last year he was hindered by injuries here and there, but also has an 11K per 9 usually. So past 4 years, he's been a great pitcher over there in Japan, and I'm excited to see what he's got for the Padres, him and Matsui.
Yeah, and just as far as like projection goes and that stuff, Fangraphs has him projected at a 3.95 ERA, 4 FIP, and 49 innings. He's not projected to have any saves, so they don't think he's going to be the closer. But over 10 strikeouts per 9. So I mean, not like crazy good numbers, but if you're talking about a guy making $2 million, that's pretty solid numbers. It's if you're projected to have a sub 4 in your rookie season in the MLB. Another thing to mention is that he's also pretty young, I want to say, right? He's only 25. Yeah, he's only 25 years old. So he's born in 98. I mean, you could potentially keep him. You could find an agreement. He could be in San Diego for a long time if it works out. And I think the big question now, like that we're kind of talking about, is like, okay, this bullpen's all shored up, right? So I'm gonna show you. This is just Padres active roster right here. But this is their bullpen. I mean, these are the guys. Obviously, there's way too many names here. They're going to cut that down quite a bit. But, like, you got Robert Suarez, right? You got Tom Cosgrove, Steven Wilson. Alec Jacob could make the roster. Morahone, he's been banged up and stuff, but he should make the roster. De Los Santos, he should make the roster. Matsui, Jeremiah Estrada, who we went to elementary and middle school with, could make the roster. We're rooting for him. Patino, obviously, everyone got excited about him. I forget. Chase, was it you? Chase, you wanted him, right? Isaac, you were like, I don't know. And then you also have Suk Go as well. So you have a lot of options. That's the other thing. Like, say Matsui or, Tom Cosgrove isn't as good as he was last year, or Robert Suarez gets banged up again. Like, you have a really deep bullpen. You have so many different arms that you can potentially go after. You have some kind of projects in Patino and Estrada. You obviously have the guys that, you traded with the Yankees for. So like you have so many arms now where it's like, yeah, there's still big time question marks in the starting rotation, 100%. However, the bullpen is looking shored up. So that's that's the biggest positive I have so far this year of the Padres offseason. And, now it just comes down to, can they get outfielders? Can they get power hitting corner outfielders, a first base DH type of guy? And can they get a starter? Can they get a left-handed starter that can be good? Because if they do that, they have a pretty complete roster. Still some question marks, still not perfect, everything like that, but they have at least shored up the bullpen, which is you're checking the boxes, right? There's still a lot of guys available on the market. So I am happy to see that. As we said before, like in the video, we're talking about like, are the Padres screwed now? We said, you got to wait. You got to wait to see what happens, but it could look pretty scary. And I said before, I don't think they're going to just waste a year of prime from Machado and Bogarts, considering where they're at in their contracts, how old they are and stuff. I feel like they're forced to try to make a run. So we'll see what happens, but I do think that their bullpen shored up. I don't think we're going to see any more moves from the bullpen. I think now you're going to see them try to go after a starter in this secondary market, kind of not really secondary market yet, but like go after that. and hopefully they add a couple bats because they still need a couple bats. I definitely think that. But Chase Isaac, what are you guys feeling now about this offseason? Because obviously it started off rough, but at least we have a couple signings here where we're like, hey, that's how we had success in 22.
It's good. I mean, hopefully we can get a legitimate power bat for first base or a DH. I think Garrett Cooper is still out there. He was pretty solid with us for a while. I know he's probably not going to fetch a ton of money, so cheaper option there. And then, I don't know what their plan for the outfield. We do have a couple guys. I think it's Marcy. You could move Jackson Merrill out there to left or right and see how that goes. We were talking about it today. There's Profar, there's Jankowski for cheaper options. They don't sound great, but with the budget concerns that we have, we kind of need to go those options and hope that we can figure it out. Because hopefully, I think Hosmer's contract comes off the books this year, right? After this year,
I think it's after this year, one more year. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, there's. Yeah. I mean, I'm satisfied with the bullpen additions, right? Matsui, Suk Go, Eniel De Los Santos. You cleared out the money that was owed to Scott Barlow by cheapening up and getting De Los Santos. You still got Suarez in there. You got Cosgrove. You got Steven Wilson. You got some good arms. You got Brito, Vasquez. You got some good arms in that bullpen. That's the only positive. The lineup still sucks. The rotation still kind of sucks. Sucks might be a harsh word for the lineup considering you have Manny, Fernando, and Xander. And I guess Ha-seong Kim, and if he bounces back, Jake Cronenworth. But you're still missing two corner outfielders. Fernando can't play outfield by himself. I say corner outfielders because as of right now, he's going to have to play outfield by himself. But you're missing, ideally, because apparently he only wants to play right, which I get. He was a stud out there. And right is just as hard to man as center field when it comes to Petco Park. So if he wants to stay in right, you're missing a center fielder and a left fielder. And you're missing a first baseman considering Jake Cronenworth does not have first base type power. So I don't know what moves you can make. I don't know who you can contact to try and trade for, but you're going to have to hit the trade market. I don't know if you're willing to give up Jackson Merrill. Personally, that's probably the prospect I'm willing to give up considering this is nothing against Jackson Merrill. It's just I don't think it's a great fit with us. I think he needs to join a team that can kind of support his. It doesn't seem like he's going to hit for a lot of power, and I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely am rooting for him. I really like Jackson Merrill. He's sick, but we already don't really have many power bats. Adding another guy that doesn't hit for much power doesn't really seem like a great move for the Padres. I mean, granted, you can manufacture runs. It worked for the Padres in 2022, but it's not always going to work. So, I want to see some power bats, man. I want the Padres to go ahead, and if you need to trade Merrill to get some bats, you need to trade Merrill to get some bats, man. I mean, you're already flooded with shortstops. Your next top prospect is a shortstop. DeVries, however you say it, he's a shortstop. You're probably going to draft. All you do is draft shortstops, so you're probably going to draft another shortstop. I'm not worried if they trade Merrill. And hey, maybe Merrill can become a contributor this year, but somehow, some way, they need to get some power bats in the lineup. That's going to be the main concern. I think some people would say the starting rotation will be the main concern. I don't know, man. I think you can argue both ways. So there's a lot of concerns still surrounding the Padres, but I truly believe the bullpen is not one of them.
And that's good because, I mean, there's still a lot of guys available. We obviously talked about some outfield options. There's Soler, there's Jock Peterson. Center field is kind of slim, which is a little sus. But, I mean, outside of that, like, you're looking at it, and I think you're right. Like, Garrett Cooper is a potential cheap option at first base. Manny's probably going to DH initially. So if you're thinking about the infield, you're going to probably have Cronenworth at second, Kim at third, and then Bogarts at short, and then you're going to need a first baseman. You're going to have Manny DH. That's how the year's going to start, right? So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Isaac, you went deep into the Jackson Merrill convo. We'll have to talk about that too. But we also talk a lot about, like, okay, well, if Bogarts and Manny bounce and Tatis, hit better next year. Didn't Manny finish right with the 780 OPS and 30 bombs last year? That's a pretty good year, guys. like his OPS is a little bit low, but to act like he's gonna be able to just pull up and have a 900 OPS, and that's why the Padres are gonna be better this year, that's not a reasonable expectation. So I want to double check exactly what Manny hit. Yeah, Manny had a 782 OPS and he had exactly 30 home runs. That's not that bad. Like, I know that for a lot of the year, like, guys were slumping and there was just no hitters with runners in scoring position. That's because the lineup wasn't deep. So that's the same problem that's happening now. So I think that I'm actually with you, man. Like, also, like, we've seen, like, Ruben Nebula has been able to develop guys well. They're able to get a lot of, like, random guys to contribute. They have a deep bullpen. I don't think the starting rotation, honestly, like, I think you need one guy. You need one lefty, but then you need to really fix the lineup. So that's kind of where I'm at, too, with kind of moving forward. But I am happy. You shored up the bullpen. The bullpen looks good. And now we can kind of start getting into, like, all right, are we going to see a Jock Peterson? We talked about Cody Bellinger. We don't think Cody Bellinger is a realistic option whatsoever because of financial reasons. But there are guys that are kind of cheap, and there's also a whole league of guys that you could potentially trade for too, because we have seen that a lot of times that's the route that AJ Preller goes. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they end up going after someone that is on a smaller contract, maybe a free agent in a couple of years, and they end up trading for someone. They're like, we're going to have him play center for a year or two, something simple like that. So, but I think that we, at least from the moves that have been made outside of the Soto trade, we've liked the moves that have been made. We've liked the two signings. We want to see them do more. We want to see the Padres be good this year. So we'll have to continue to monitor it. We'll definitely keep talking about stuff in the offseason. But if there's any position, anyone that you want us to talk about, comment below. But overall, I think this is a good deal. I think it's a good deal. Low risk, potential pretty high reward as a back end reliever. So I like it. And yeah, guys, we'll talk to you later. Have a great rest of your day. And let us know what you want us to talk about next. See y'all.